Hey viewers, welcome to African Tales by Afi. Please kindly click the subscribe button to get notified for more amazing stories. In the bustling city of Akure, there lived a wealthy woman named T. She was known far and wide for her success in the fabric business. From humble beginnings, she had built an empire, selling the finest cloths to the richest families in the region. Her wealth brought her immense respect, and she used it to provide a luxurious life for her family, her husband, Da, and their beloved twin daughters, Yu and Iridi. T loved her daughters more than anything in the world. She believed that showing love meant providing them with everything they could ever desire. She made sure they had the most expensive clothes, the finest jewelry, and, most importantly, more food than they could ever eat. T saw their weight as a sign of prosperity and happiness, believing that a full belly was the greatest comfort in life. "Eat, my daughters," she would say, serving them overflowing plates of rice, meat, and sweet pastries. A well-fed child is a blessed child. You must never know hunger. Yu and Iridi adored their mother and obeyed her every wish. They ate without question, enjoying the treats and delicacies she prepared. But as they grew older, their classmates at school were not as kind. "Look at them," the other children would whisper. "They are as round as calabashes." "Maybe they ate an entire elephant," another would laugh. Yu and Iridi would return home in tears, but their mother always comforted them. "Do not mind those foolish children," she said, wiping their tears. "They are just jealous. One day, suitors will line up for you both because of the wealth in this house." Da, their father, was less certain about T's beliefs. He often watched his daughters with concern. "T, maybe we should encourage them to exercise a little," he suggested one evening. "They are always tired, and they do not seem happy." T scoffed. "Exercise? What nonsense! Our daughters do not need to labor like commoners. They are princesses." Da sighed but knew better than to argue with his wife. And so, Yu and Iridi continued their lifestyle, growing larger as the years passed. When they completed their education, both with excellent grades, their mother had another rule: "You will not work. There is no need for my daughters to struggle when I have all the money in the world. You will stay home and enjoy your lives." Yu and Iridi, used to their mother making all decisions for them, agreed. While their friends went on to find jobs and careers, they remained at home, enjoying their allowances and lavish meals. But soon, a new problem arose: marriage. T proudly announced, "Now that my daughters are grown, we must find them fine husbands." However, the men of Akure were hesitant. Despite their beauty, Yu and Iridi had gained so much weight that many found them unattractive. The whispers grew louder. Why marry them when there are other women who are slimmer and more active? T was furious. "These fools do not see what treasures my daughters are," she raged. She decided to take matters into her own hands. She arranged grand events, inviting the richest and most eligible bachelors, hoping that someone would take an interest in her daughters. But each time, the men made excuses and left without offering marriage. Iridi, more sensitive than her sister, became heartbroken. "Mother," she cried one evening, "what if no one ever loves us?" T hugged her tightly. Nonsense, my child. I will make sure you both marry well. Trust me. In desperation, T made an announcement to her employees. Whoever marries my daughters will receive a share in my business. This changed everything. The men who had once turned away now became interested. Two men, Doten and Luku, came forward. They were charming and sweet, speaking beautiful words to you and Iridi. T was overjoyed. The weddings were grand, with music, dancing, and feasts that lasted for days. T smiled, believing she had secured her daughter's happiness. But little did she know, trouble loomed ahead. You and Iridi grew up in luxury, shielded from the realities of the world by their mother, T. She believed that wealth could solve any problem, and for years, she ignored the concerns of neighbors and friends who warned her about overfeeding the girls. You worry too much, T would say. My daughters are the pride of Akira. Who wouldn't want to marry them? But as the years passed, you and Iridi began to feel the weight of their mother's choices, literally and emotionally. Their classmates teased them mercilessly, calling them names that made them cry at night. Despite their excellent grades, the sting of rejection followed them everywhere. I hate going to school, Iridi confided in you one evening. They laugh at us, you. Even the teachers pity us. You sighed. Mama says our wealth will bring us good husbands. Maybe things will change when we grow up. But things did not change. When you and Iridi graduated with honors, their father, Da, was proud. He wanted them to work, to experience life beyond the comforts of their home. But T refused. My daughters do not need to work, she declared. I will provide for them until their husbands take over. And so, the twins remained at home, receiving generous allowances and continuing their lavish lifestyle. Years passed, and suitors did not come. T, once confident that wealth would attract husbands for her daughters, began to panic. Maybe we need to introduce them to people, she told Da. Arrange meetings with good families. But every match she proposed was rejected. The men found excuses, some were already engaged, others claimed their families disapproved. T was heartbroken. What is wrong with these men? She cried. Don't they see the beauty of my daughters? Da, who had long warned against overindulgence, remained silent. He had seen this coming but knew his words would do little to soothe T's pain. Desperate, T made an offer to her employees. Any man who married you or Iridi would receive a significant share in her thriving fabric business. The news spread quickly. Some men scoffed at the idea, unwilling to marry for wealth. But others saw an opportunity. Doten and Luku were two such men. They are rich, Doten told his brother, Luku. Marrying into their family means we never have to worry about money again. Luku grinned. And once we have access to their wealth, we can do whatever we want. Unaware of their true intentions, T arranged grand weddings for her daughters. It was the most extravagant celebration Akira had seen. People whispered about the sudden proposals, but T dismissed their doubts. My daughters are finally happy, she said, beaming. For a short time, it seemed like a fairy tale. You and Iridi believed they had found love, and T rested easy, believing she had secured her daughter's futures. But happiness was fleeting. Once T passed away, the men showed their true colors. "You're embarrassing," Doughton sneered at you. "I can't even take you to social events." Look who was no better. "You disgust me," he told Iridi. "Do you think I married you because I love you?" The emotional abuse broke Iridi. She withdrew, sinking into despair. You, too, felt the pain of rejection, but something inside her refused to give up. One evening, you found Iridi staring out of their old bedroom window. "Iridi, we can change," you said softly. "We don't have to live like this." Iridi shook her head. "Mama promised that our wealth would bring us happiness. But she was wrong, you. We were never truly loved." You hugged her sister tightly. "Then we'll find our own happiness." But fate had other plans. One tragic night, Iridi collapsed. She had grown weak, refusing to eat or leave the house. When you found her, it was too late. The grief was unbearable. You blamed herself for not saving her sister. But amidst the sorrow, a fire ignited within her. She would not suffer as Iridi did. You decided it was time to reclaim her life. And she would start by taking back what was rightfully hers. You sat alone in her mother's old bedroom, staring at the large wooden wardrobe filled with expensive fabrics and jewelry. It still smelled like tea, lavender and cinnamon, her favorite scent. But all the wealth in the world had not saved her. And now, you was trapped in a life her mother had unknowingly forced upon her. Iridi was gone. The pain of her loss was still fresh, cutting through you like a knife. But you refused to break the way her sister had. She would not let Doughton and Luku control her any longer. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. You opened the door. Doughton's voice came from the hallway. She sighed, wiping her eyes. The last thing she needed was to hear another insult from her husband. But as she opened the door, Doughton pushed his way in. "Why are you always locking yourself away?" he demanded. "You're my wife, yet you act like I don't exist." You crossed her arms. "Do I exist to you, Doughton? Or am I just a key to my mother's wealth?" Doughton smirked. "You finally understand. But don't forget, as long as I'm your husband, I own everything that belonged to T." You clenched her fists. "My mother built that business with her own hands. She trusted me and Iridi with her legacy." Doughton scoffed. "And look where that got her. Do you think I actually wanted to marry you? It was just an easy way to a better life." You felt her anger boil over, but she forced herself to stay calm. Doughton believed he had won. That was his mistake. She needed a plan. Later that night, you sat in her mother's old office, going through paperwork. She had learned a lot from watching T handle the family business. Even though her mother had never let her officially work, you had been observant. She found the documents she was looking for, the business ownership papers. They were in Doughton and Luku's names now. But there was still a way to take them back. As she skimmed through the files, she heard a voice behind her. You're up late, Lucas said, stepping into the office. His eyes were cold, calculating. You forced a smile. Just looking at some of Mama's old documents. It makes me feel closer to her. Luku chuckled. That's sweet. But you should know by now that these documents don't mean anything to you anymore. Everything here belongs to us. You bit her lip. I know. I just wish Mama had made sure we were taken care of properly. Maybe if we had some of the properties back, we wouldn't have to depend on you so much. Luku frowned. What do you mean? You sighed dramatically. Doten always complains about handling the business, and I don't want to be a burden. Maybe if I had some of my mother's assets in my name again, it would help. Luku eyed her suspiciously. Doten and I don't trust you. She faked a small laugh. I don't trust you either, Luku. But we're family now. And if you want me to stop asking questions, just give me a small piece of what my mother left behind. That way, I'll have no reason to interfere in your business anymore. Luku considered it. We'd have to sign papers to change the ownership. I'll talk to Doten. Yu's heart pounded. That was exactly what she wanted. A week later, Doten and Luku sat across from Yu at the dining table. A lawyer had been called to oversee the signing of the papers. You must really be desperate if you're begging for property now, Doten mocked as he signed the documents. Yu kept her face neutral. Just making life easier for everyone, she replied smoothly. Lucas signed next, smirking. Don't say we never gave you anything. You took the papers and handed them to the lawyer. Please process these immediately. The lawyer nodded and left. You turned to Doten and Luku, forcing a smile. Thank you, she said sweetly. Doten waved a hand dismissively. Whatever. Just don't come crying when we spend the rest of the money. You said nothing. Because she knew something they didn't. They had just signed away their control of the business. Every single asset, including the properties, now legally belonged to her. And soon, they would regret underestimating her. You stood by the window of her mother's old office, watching the city of Akure come to life in the morning sun. She held the legal documents tightly in her hands, her heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. It was done. Doten and Luku had unknowingly signed away their control of her mother's business and assets. The power they had used to control her was gone. Now, it was time to show them. Later that day, Doten and Luku strolled into the company headquarters as they always did, barking orders at employees and acting as if they owned the place. They had no idea what was about to happen. You sat behind her mother's grand desk, calm and collected. When they entered, she looked up and smiled. Ah, my dear husband and brother-in-law. How nice of you to visit, she said sweetly. Doten raised an eyebrow. What are you doing behind that desk? You leaned back in her chair. I'm just getting comfortable in my rightful place. Luku scoffed. Rightful place? You must be confused, you. This business belongs to us now. You chuckled. Actually, It doesn't. Not anymore. She pulled out the signed documents and slid them across the desk. You both were so eager to shut me up that you didn't even read what you were signing. As of today, you have no legal claim to my mother's business or her properties. Everything now belongs to me. Doughton snatched the papers and scanned them, his face turning pale. Look who grabbed them next, his hands shaking. This is a lie. Look who shouted. Oh, it's very real, you said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. And in case you're wondering, I've already spoken to the company's legal team. They've filed everything with the government. Your names have been completely erased from the business registry. Doughton slammed his fists on the desk. You tricked us. You folded her arms. I used the same cunning you two used against me. Except, unlike you, I didn't need to lie or manipulate anyone. I simply gave you what you wanted, an easy way to get rid of me. You were so eager to keep me quiet that you didn't stop to think. And now, I own everything. Luku's face turned red with anger. You think you can just push us out? We'll fight this. You leaned forward. Go ahead and try. But let me remind you, without my mother's business and assets, you two have nothing. No wealth, no power, no influence. You'll be left with exactly what you came into this marriage with, nothing. Doughton gritted his teeth. You ungrateful woman. You were nothing before we married you. You laughed. And yet, here I am, standing tall while you crumble. The truth is, Doughton, I never needed you. You needed me. And now, you have lost everything. At that moment, security officers entered the room. As of today, you are both officially banned from this company and all properties belonging to my mother's estate, you said firmly. If you try to enter any of my properties again, you will be arrested. The security guards stepped forward, waiting for her signal. You wouldn't dare. Luku spat. You smirked. Watch me. She nodded to the guards, who immediately grabbed Doughton and Luku by their arms. You'll regret this, you. Doughton yelled as he was dragged out. You didn't flinch. I already regret ever letting you into my life. As the doors closed behind them, you let out a long breath. It was over. For the first time in her life, she was truly free. And she wasn't just taking back her mother's business. She was taking back her life. With Doughton and Luku gone, you finally felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. She stood in her mother's office, taking in the space that once belonged to the woman who had shaped her life, for better or worse. This is yours now, she whispered to herself, running her fingers over the mahogany desk. And you will make the most of it. She had taken back what was rightfully hers, but her journey was far from over. There was still healing to do, wounds to mend, and a future to build. Days turned into weeks, and you wasted no time in reshaping her mother's business into something new. Instead of just selling fabrics, she expanded into designing, creating a fashion empire that catered to all body sizes. She wanted to send a message: beauty came in all forms, and self-worth was never tied to weight. her story spread across a cure like wildfire. People admired her resilience, her courage, and the way she had turned tragedy into triumph. One evening, as she was leaving her office, she heard a familiar voice call out to her. "You!" She turned to see her father, Da, standing a few feet away, looking older and more worn than she remembered. "Da," she said, her voice filled with surprise. He took a hesitant step toward her. "I heard what you did. How you took back everything, how you turned your life around." You studied him for a moment before asking, "Why are you here?" Da sighed. "To apologize." You raised an eyebrow. "For what, exactly?" "For everything," he said, his voice heavy with regret. "For letting your mother spoil you and Irene without thinking about the consequences. For standing by while you both suffered because of our mistakes. And for not protecting you when you needed me the most." You swallowed hard. She had spent so many years resenting her father, blaming him for his silence, for letting things spiral out of control. But now, looking at the man before her, she saw nothing but sorrow and regret. "I should have done better," Da continued. "And I am sorry for that." You was silent for a long moment before she finally spoke. "I used to hate you, you know," she admitted. "I used to blame you for everything that went wrong in my life. But now, I understand that we all make mistakes. And some mistakes cost more than others." Da's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I lost my wife. I lost Irene. And I nearly lost you too. I just want to make things right." You let out a shaky breath. "Then let's start by moving forward." She stepped forward and, for the first time in years, embraced her father. Months later, you found herself laughing over dinner with Mukka, the man who had unexpectedly walked into her life. He had been a breath of fresh air, supportive, kind, and, most importantly, someone who saw her for who she truly was. "You know," Mukka said, nudging her playfully, "I still can't believe how you outsmarted Doten and Luku. You're a real mastermind." You chuckled. "I just did what had to be done." "And now you're thriving," Mukka said proudly. "Your business is booming, you're healthy, and you're finally happy." You smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "Yes. I am happy." For the first time in her life, she truly meant it. She had fought her way through heartbreak, betrayal, and loss, but she had emerged stronger. Her mother's love had been flawed, her past filled with pain, but she had found her own way. And now, Yu was no longer just the daughter of a wealthy woman. She was a woman who had taken control of her own destiny. And nothing would ever take that away from her again. Hello tribe, hope we enjoyed today's story. Please kindly put what you've learned in the comments section. Please remember to hit the like button, share this to your friends and family, as well as subscribe to see you on the next one. Bye.